Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. As you may or may not know, earlier on this week, I was able to sit down and get an exclusive early look at Modern Warfare 2. And in this, we learned a ton of different things about the game, stuff about the campaign, stuff about multiplayer, and in particular, stuff about the Gunsmith. Yes, the Gunsmith is returning in MW2. And while we weren't able to get a ton of details on it, what we were able to actually see briefly was pretty interesting because of the changes that are being made and the upgrades that are being made to the system. So today we're breaking down what exactly we know of the Gunsmith as it stands right now. As we go through it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, tips. You're gonna find it all right here. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. And also, quick reminder, all weekend long, my G Fuel discount code Immortal is boosted to get you 30% off your entire order. So if you want to grab a tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, anything else on the G Fuel site, code Immortal has you covered. So by now, we're all familiar with the Gunsmith. We saw it back in MW 2019, we had it in Cold War, we had it in Vanguard, and yes, indeed, it is returning new and improved in Modern Warfare 2. So this version of the Gunsmith aims to give players more power and more control than ever before. It's going to introduce a broader range of function, but it's still going to be based in realistic military technology. So we're not going to see these crazy alien spaceship builds for weapons. It's going to be realistic when it comes to what you can do with a weapon. So during this meeting with Infinity Ward, they actually showed us a brief preview of what the Gunsmith would look like. We didn't get to see this image for all that long, so I was trying to, sort of scramble to write everything down that I saw. I think I got most of it down, but for what it's worth, this is still a very early build of the game. I imagine we're probably going to see maybe some UI changes, some updates to certain aspects of it. So for what it's worth, I wouldn't take this as like the final version of what the Gunsmith is going to be, but it's the base and the core of what it appears to be for this year. So in the example image that we were able to see, there was essentially a whole new layout, but also a similar layout at the same time. We had a weapon called the Lock 9 in front of us. It was an SMG. And on the top row, there were 6 different weapon attachments, pretty standard attachments. I'll go over what was visible here in a moment. But then on the bottom row, we had something called weapon parts. And there were 4 of those, 3 or 4 of those. I couldn't fully read what one of them said in time, but 6 attachments up top, 3 to 4 down low. I'd assume 4 because 10 is pretty standard now, and that's a more rounded number for what the Gunsmith would be. But at the top, you were only able to equip 3 different attachments. That was what was equipped on the actual weapon, and then there were additional weapon parts equipped as well. And it would seem that those are the more detailed ones that are going to really change up how a weapon may feel, and that's the really cool stuff I want to talk about towards the end of the video. But as far as the attachments that we were able to see there, I couldn't get the exact names of all of them, but we had a muzzle or a suppressor category, a foregrip category, lasers, ammo, optics or sights, and then also rear grips up top. So those were the 6 attachments available up there, are the attachment categories. Again, in that preview image, there were only 3 selected and a max of 3 available. Maybe that changes with level. Maybe that's just how they're going to go about it. And then for the weapon parts, there were barrels, magazines. The one slot that I couldn't read, it might have just been displaying the type of weapon that it was. It said subcompact, so it was a compact SMG. Maybe that changes as you adjust it later. Again, more details on that coming up here in a minute. But then there was also a stock part as well. So like I said, similar, especially with the categories in particular here, but definitely a different layout. And of course, as we get closer to launch and we see more things revealed, we'll have a better idea of what exactly the game plan is here. But the way that I interpret it, like I said, is you'll be able to select a certain amount of attachments and a certain amount of parts. And those parts are going to be especially important, and I'll explain why here in just a bit. Before we get to that, they also talked about the different variety of weapons in the game. Of course, we're going to have plenty of different weapons to fill up the arsenal: rifles, SMGs, shotguns, snipers, you name it. If it's in Call of Duty before, it's probably going to be there once more. But there's this new dynamic of a family tree of weapons, and what they showed us was quite literally a family tree of unlocking things. you start with the base weapon. The example that they briefly displayed during the meeting was an M4. And then once you begin to actually level that up, you unlock things like the M16, which is obviously a variant, 458 SOCOM build variant of it, something called an LMG Fight Light. So you get these different variants of the gun as you level up more, and you can go in and customize those and use those builds as your base weapon instead of just the stock M4 that you initially start with. The way they described it, this allows players to unlock a deeper customization of any given weapon and create a more unique play style. And then also something they mentioned is that all weapons are going to have certain unique attachments, but then there's also going to be the primary pool of shared attachments between, I would assume, just a weapon class. You know, things like your monolithic suppressor, things like your task force barrel that we've seen before, but you'll also have unique versions of maybe a built-in suppressor in the barrel, maybe a unique foregrip, like for instance, what on the PKM in Modern Warfare, we have the snatch grip, which gives you better ADS and better control, and no other grip in the game really does that. So there will be different dynamics there depending on the gun, if you want to use something that's exclusive to that specific build or something more universal. And now we get to the very, very interesting conversation. And when they put this up on the screen for us to see, I got very excited because this is going to be such a unique change to the Gunsmith that I think is going to take it to that next level. Modern Warfare 2, I'd also assume Warzone 2, is going to include attachment tuning, which really gives you, the player, the biggest opportunity that we've ever seen in COD to make a weapon feel unique to you. You can build a weapon to feel exactly how you want it to feel. This provides deep customization for more engaged players, and it allows for more meaningful adjustments, and it's kind of its own game within a game, I believe is how they described it to us. So, for instance, we had the barrel for that Lock 9 SMG on display. There were options to make that barrel heavier, and that would actually end up increasing the control, or you can make it lighter and increase the ADS speed. Now, obviously, if you went more on the heavy side and got better recoil control, it would hurt the ADS speed. If you pushed it more towards the ADS speed side and the lighter side, you would have worse control. So there are different drawbacks to, you know, building all out ADS speed or all-out control that you wouldn't otherwise have. You can create a balance of maybe you want 75% control, 25% ADS speed, so it's still relatively mobile and agile. That's something you'd be able to actually build out, which is really cool, and it gives you a million different ways to try and build out a certain weapon, right? You have your standard attachments, but because of that, you have slightly better control, you have slightly better ADS speed, and that could change the outcome of a gunfight. On top of that, there was also the option to make the barrel size long or short. The long barrel gave you better aim walking movement speed. The short barrel gave you better stability. So if you obviously wanted that really good aim walking move speed, you could have a long barrel on your sub. If you wanted really good stability, you'd build the short barrel. Then you combine that with however you want the barrel to work for ADS speed. You could have a really, really stable build that's got great control and also good movement speed. Like I said, there's a ton of different ways you can actually customize a weapon there. There was also a radar graph, and that showed areas that the weapon focused on. Like, for instance, there was recoil, there was mobility, there was damage, fire rate, accuracy, range, and I think a couple of others that I didn't get to see in time, but your basic stats on a weapon, right? And I imagine that because we were just looking at the barrel, we were seeing things like control and ADS speed, but if you were to go in and try and tune your magazine, you'd affect things like fire rate and damage. So you could truly tune all of your different weapon parts, keyword the parts, not maybe the basic attachments like your red dot and whatnot, to really fit your play style. If you want a super low recoil but high damage SMG, you could try and build that. If you want a max speed, max ADS SMG that maybe doesn't have the greatest control, you can build that. And that to me sounds awesome. It's such a, you know, intricate way to expand on the Gunsmith where you don't have to do that by any means. You could build a standard setup that's going to work just fine for an average player, but if you want to go the extra step and customize it to how you play and benefit your play style the most, you can do so. So that said, that is everything we were able to learn about the Gunsmith via this little meeting. Like I said, I imagine in the future, once we get closer to the multiplayer reveal, we're going to get a lot more information on this. And of course, you guys already know I got you covered if and when that happens. Alongside everything else going on in COD, you're going to find it all right here. Make sure you're subscribed with those notifications turned on. That way you can always guarantee you're up to date. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. But that is going to wrap things up for today. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL for a discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. The links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.